All right, you're still watching the conversation on Lagos television. At this moment on the program, we'll be looking at water transportation, alternative to road traveling in Lagos State. And lately, you would have seen the investment of the Lagos State government targeted towards improving the quality of water transportation that we have in Lagos State. Joining us at this moment on the program is Oluwadamilola Emmanuel, General Manager, Lagos State Waterways Authority. It's a pleasure to have you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Okay, let's start by reviewing some of the investment of the Lagos State government. Recently, some 15 boats were commissioned by Mr. Governor. What value, rather, has it added to the efficient delivery of service in terms of water transportation in Lagos State?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, as you know, for water transportation to thrive, several infrastructures are needed. You need the point of embarkment and disembarkment, which is the jetties and the terminals. We also require, of course, the safety personnel who would ensure that everything is working at the jetties. And then that critical component is the ferries themselves. And as you know, Lagos State is always wanting to take the lead. For the longest time, the operators have always been seeking some kind of intervention from the state government regarding the ferries. It's been a cry from them for the longest time, and I'm happy and I'm glad that Mr. Governor as well kept his word to the stakeholders to let them know that a time will come when the state government as well will provide ferries which will be concessioned to the private operators, and that is what you saw, where those ferries which were commissioned by Mr. Governor will eventually be concessioned to the private operators.
So it's not going to be operated by government?
No, so government will get a part of it, but it's going to be largely between the private operators and the government.
All right, so again, those ferries were locally produced.
Yes.
And it was a collaboration between the company and the Lagos State government. So yes, again, this shows that government is open to collaboration, absolutely, open to, again, opening the waterways to viable players, yes, that would also want to partner with government. A lot of people have also been greatly concerned about safety on the waterways. Yes. So what is LASWA doing at ensuring that the waterways are not only safe but also secure for those that will ply the waterways?
Okay, sorry, let's just quickly take it back to where you started the conversation from, which is the idea of local content.
Right.
Local content. I'm sure you know, for any country which thrives on local content, you know, that would be a fully functional, a very effective and efficient economy, because what you're doing is you're saving a lot of costs.
Okay.
Ferries generally are very expensive. When you have to bring them and you have to import them, it costs an arm and a leg. So the fact that this has actually been done is going to save a lot of costs on the side of government. I mean, promoting local content, and when you have this kind of boats that meet international standards, it also shows another first for Lagos. And of course, we want that as well to spread across the whole entire divide of Nigeria. So that's another first to the governor, you know, and another first to the Ministry of Transportation as well, under the commissioner, okay, the permanent secretary as well, who have also been promoting local content. Right. Absolutely. And then now going back to what you said, I mean, all this while, we want to look at the track record of previous times, and this is last 2 years. Last year, we had one major incident on the waterways. The year before that, we had only 2 major incidents. 3 years backtrack, we used to have a minimum of 8 to 10 incidents on the waterways. So what has happened? The state government has invested heavily in safety. Okay. One, we have increased the amount of personnel who watch over the jetties and the terminals from 48 to 108. Secondly, the first of its kind, a waterways monitoring and data management center, which is run by LASWA in Falomo as well, helps us to be able to monitor real time what is going on at each of these jetties. Okay. And we're able to take that data as well. Thirdly, we're also able to promote the biannual inspection of the existing boat operators, because this biannual inspection helps them know that these are the things that are wrong with your boat, these are the things that you need to do. And of course, it's a carrot and a stick approach. For any of them who flouts, or for any of them who, of course, also causes any kind of, infringement on our waterways, they will face the full wrath of the law. Wow. So all of these steps, of course, coupled with whistleblowing, and of course, constant patrolling of the waterways has helped enable us have a more safer and a more prosperous waterways.
Okay, sorry, let me just build on that. Yes. Again, the issue of the safety would come up considering the incident which happened days ago, yes. Of course, where some individuals were, of course, kidnapped on the waterways. And so are we also increasing surveillance on the waterways? Because, again, if people think that they can get away through the waterways and just want to perpetrate evil, and so did that incident also spur some kind of more safety measures on the waterways in Lagos?
Well, most definitely. I'll definitely agree with you. But like I said, we also have to deal with data here as well. How many incidents have we had of kidnap in the last few years in Lagos? Very few. But it doesn't mean, I'm sure you know, Lagos is a proactive government, and definitely security measures are one of those things that would always constantly continue to look at in terms of being proactive with. However, we have the Marine Police and the Navy, and now
they're constantly,
and now it's now strengthening what they're currently doing to ensure that that security component of the waterways, because if you don't have security, then you're going to, you're going to discourage tourism, you're going to discourage even the movement of passengers. But we've had it generally safe. However, we must not take it for granted. We must be proactive and not reactive. This incident has also showed, of course, that definitely we have to ensure that whatever proactive measure we want to put in place in terms of security, we put it in place as well, so that these kind of crimes will not be carried out again.
Okay, earlier you spoke about safety investment. How has this impacted the volume of passengers that we have on our waterways in Lagos State, and do you have the statistics?
Well, I would say significantly. We've seen about a 5% increase because of this idea of safety. But of course, we hope to do a lot more than that. But the whole idea is that if you have those who are currently using it and they feel safe, they become the ambassadors to be able to say, look, this thing is safe, come on board. And then you can also win a lot more people. I'm sure you know generally, even though we're surrounded by water, there's a water phobia in Lagos, which obviously we've been curbing through the use of sensitization, awareness, the promotion of use your life jackets. And if you have your life jackets, it's the singular most important thing you need on the waterways. Generally, statistically shows you that even water transportation is regarded as the safest mode of transportation anywhere in the world, because really, it's not as if you're going to have two boats always colliding. The accidents happen on a daily basis on the roads.
Right.
So if you were to look at the waterways, except, there is that, of course, negligence on the part of those who are driving, then really there's no need for any incident really. And even if there's any in case of any incident, as long as you're wearing your life jacket, you'll be well safe and secure.
But we're embracing the culture.
Absolutely. The culture, the life jacket wearing in Lagos State, I would say is about 95%.
So since we're talking about an alternative means of transportation, of course, to road transportation, there are jetties in Lagos and people move daily from one jetty to another. Yes. And a lot of people are also, the numbers are increasing on a daily basis, how people commute on the waterways. And so how sustainable, let me not use, what was LASWA doing at ensuring that you also put in check the activities of the private guys who are also on the waterways? Not all the boats on the waterways are Lagos State owned. They are private operators who also operate from different jetties. And so what kind of oversight functions do you have over the private operators?
Well, the private operators are the main brain of, and they are the main component of the operators.
Right.
I dare say they are about more than 90% of the entire operators on the waterways. So our oversight really is even over them.
Over them.
Yeah, because why the state government operator is there is to set the standards. And it's to set the benchmark for how we want water transportation to thrive. It's not even to compete, because the private operators initially always complaining there for competition. No, it's actually to set the standards and for them to also know that, look, areas which they might not cover, we also have backup, which will obviously cover those areas. So yeah, oversight is fully over the private operators, and that's why I said that, in recent times as well, we've had a good with them where we've had even they as well, they've seen a reduction in the amount of incidents, because whenever there's an accident, it's not only the government that loses, they as private operators lose as well, and they would lose patronage as well, which they don't usually like to lose, and I'm sure the waterways as well is one of those places that immediately something happens, and it sends a negative signal down the line, which we don't always like to happen.
Let's talk about the hours of operation on our waterways. Are you enforcing the law effectively in such a way that people don't ply our waterways when they are not supposed to do?
Yeah, so we do that with the security arms of Marine Police and especially the Navy, because after 7 o'clock you shouldn't be on the waterways apart from certain areas that they allow for night cruising, and that's just for tourism purposes, not for the commercial purposes. So those kind of boats have night navigation, and it's only within a very limited area that they're allowed to go for tourism purposes, not for the commercial purposes.
So what kind of boats, or what kind of, for those that are commercial?
So those are more like luxury boats.
Like luxury boats.
They're not the commercial ferries that you usually would have, who are moving people from point A to point B, and 20 passengers and more.
So how do you differentiate? Because you have canoes, you have boats, you have, like you mentioned, 20 passengers, sometimes you have more. And so for those who, of course, want to use the waterways, what are they looking out for when they are plying or when they're about to get onto a boat? And so what are some of the things that the passengers can also verify by themselves, just to be sure that that canoe or that boat is safe for a riding?
Well, the very first thing is a life jacket.
Yes, the life jacket.
To ensure that you have a life jacket, you have an opportunity. It's passenger responsibility as well to check those life jackets. When you see a life jacket, one, you can tell when it's worn out. You can tell if there are holes in it. You can refuse and say, well, I'm not going to wear this life jacket. You should provide me with a proper life jacket. But people actually take the responsibility of saying, Lord, I own my own life jacket and I want to have my own life jacket and I'm going to wear my own life jacket. So you're allowed to have your own personal. People own their own personal life jackets. It becomes a personal investment. And a lot of people want to do it because they want to share life jackets eventually. So that life jacket is very, very important. Depending on what your motive is. If it's that you're going, of course, for commercial purposes, then you're probably going to get into a ferry. And ferry means that it's a passenger ferry, which obviously would be, depending on the actual location you're in, would either be a 15 passenger, a 20 passenger, a 40 passenger, a 30 passenger. And now there's even now a 60 passenger as well on some of our ferries. However, if you're going for luxury, then you would obviously have gone to the actual place where you take the luxury boat from. And those luxury boats usually would take 5 to 6 to 7 people, and you can tell what the difference is. But your life jacket is that single and most important thing you must always wear wherever you're going on the waterways.
So I asked that question because, again, sometimes when a mishap happens and you hear, oh, the boat was overloaded or it had too many passengers. So as a passenger, how do you identify if this is a 15-loader or a 20-loader?
Well, the seats. The seats will obviously tell you. When you know some people don't know, you're seeing somebody not sitting down and they're standing, and your question is, why is this person standing? Because you have no business to be standing. You should be seated. And what even a few of the boat operators have even done is even to reduce their capacity by, instead of taking like the 20 seaters, to reduce it to 18, because they realize that, one, it makes the boat last longer for them. They're having less accidents as well, because obviously the load of passengers as well. So you would know when you get into the boat. For those who, and even if you don't, you can ask any of the passengers. That's why they have a captain or a deckhand to ask any questions.
Okay, as much as the state government is investing so much in promoting water transportation on our waterways, there will always be emergencies. And what are the measures put in place to ensure that the LASWA, in collaboration with other agencies of government, are swift anytime we have emergencies on our waterways? Yeah,
the good thing about emergencies has always been collaboration. For us, we work very closely with LASWA. And then we also work with LASAMBOS as well to be able to respond. And now what has been happening is that LASAMBOS now even have stations at critical points of Falomo and Ikorodu as well, which makes it much quicker, so that in case of any emergencies, people can quickly receive any kind of medical interventions. But like I mentioned, technology has really helped. With the Waterways and Monitoring Data Management Center, it's easy to be able to monitor real time most of these jetties terminals. And now the next phase is going to see us actually even begin to track some of our boats as well, which will make it easier so that if there's any emergency from any boat, you can as well be signaled. But we have an emergency and rescue team which patrols the waterways and which can respond much quicker. But also, we realize we work with local communities who have local divers and who are also able to even respond at sometimes as first responders before we get there. And also, I would say collaboration both with state agencies, even federal agencies, and even the local communities as well has really, really helped in terms of emergencies.
Okay. I know we always experience, annually we always experience the problem of water icings on our waterways. What are the measures that your agency is putting in place to ensure that this does not impede our movement on our waterways?
Well, for the water hyacinth, it's always about being proactive, one, and it's being able to curb it from affecting the core areas where we know that it impedes water transportation on an annual basis. So you have to identify those locations. You can't say you're going to stop it entirely from the water because you'll not be able to, but you have to look at those areas where it greatly affects the authorities' activities, and those are mainly like Ikorodu, Badore, and what we do is carry out what we call a manual pegging, which blocks it from accessing the jetties and the terminals, and then we can evacuate much easily so that the boat operators will not have their businesses thrombed in the process.
All right. Are there days, especially maybe considering the rainy season, where weather could impede traveling on the waterways? And during such days, do you pre-warn or do you tell the operators ahead of what the weather could be like, and probably also tell them to stay off because of waves and other issues that could arise?
Yeah, so we have personnel at the jetties and terminals who of course, based on what the weather is looking like in the morning, will not allow boats move once they see the weather. However, what we're now doing is to work with NIMET, and those are the very initial conversations, nothing yet concrete, but we want to work with NIMET, who will then be providing for us daily forecasts, and then we can then relay those information to the boat operators. That's our next step. But however, the step in which we primarily take for now is that those personnel at the jetties will stop the boats from operating, especially if the weather is not conducive for them to move.
Okay. There was a particular statement credited to Mr. Governor during the commissioning of those 15 boats, wherein he said that government has diligently revitalized water transport infrastructure through strategic investments in modern ferries and upgraded terminals. What is the state of our terminals in the state?
Well, the terminals, I would say, were built by the Ministry of Waterfront and Infrastructure Development, and they have been critically looking at how those terminals fit today and how do they meet the demands of today, because the demands of today is what we see as multimodal transportation, not just one mode functioning from the water transport, but how does it link to the road, and of course, where possible, how does it also link to the rail? And these are things that of course, the Ministry of Waterfront are now taking into consideration, and how do we ensure that no one is discriminated against at any of these terminals, so you ensure that everyone, even people living with any kind of disability, you're able to ensure that they as well have easy access to these jetties and these terminals. So I would say the terminals are currently being upgraded. The ones we had are fully upgraded, but the ones which are even now being built are taking into consideration all of these unique peculiarities that meets today.
So what differentiates a jetty and a terminal?
Very good. So terminal just means that there's a building attached to the actual floating pontoon, but the jetties themselves just means that the floating pontoon is there without a building. And inside this building, we will probably have a shop, you probably have shops, you probably have, different kinds of things going on in there as well. But that's different, major difference in a terminal and a jetty.
So in terms of affordability, do you also control prices? So from point A to B, is there a standard price? And as a regulator, do the operators, do they discuss with you before increasing their prices, or are they at liberty to also increase?
Well, the market determines the price. However, what we do is try to put a cap, so we ensure that they're not being exorbitant. So if they want to increase any kind of significant increase, because for example, when petrol goes up, because a lot of them are probably relying on petrol, then they have to come to the table to have discussions with us, because you don't also want to discourage people from using water transportation. But generally, the market determines the price, but we ensure that we put a cap by ensuring that there's not exorbitant pricing being charged by the operators.
I know that security of lives and property is top-notch in Lagos State, especially on our waterways. But as a passenger, what are the rights that I have, and what are the channels available for me to report any of the operators who might have violated my rights or compromised when it comes to safety?
Yeah, well, I think whistleblowing has really helped us, and it's something that we'll continue to promote. Of course, there are emergency numbers. We added the 767-112, or directly you call LASWA. The 0809-012-9888, 0809-012-9777. So calling any of those numbers as well would obviously be able to feed us real-time information. We're even actually now setting up a CRM portal, which will be real-time online, where immediately anything happens, you can feed us and let us know that information is going. It's the age of technology, so we have to obviously tap into technology as well, and this will be real-time. Immediately you send the message, there's also someone who is immediately addressing and dealing with it, and you can get a response, you know, within the shortest time possible, that this has happened, this boat, you know, whether you had an issue with the boat captain, or you actually had an issue with an actual boat, or you noticed something, because whenever you see something, you have to say something. Yeah.
So just like we have road upgrades, road rehabilitation, that also happens on the waterways with channelization, mapping, and all of that. So how often does this happen? And when it happens, what are some of the steps that you know, you take in achieving this?
Yeah, well, this is something that has to be ongoing, because what you call maintenance dredging. So channelization means you dredge, and then you also identify by putting the necessary signals or markings on the waterways. So once that is done, what you usually tend to then do is maintenance dredging. But with the maintenance dredging, of course, you have to factor in, it's usually a budgetary issue, because it's capital intensive. So you must ensure that you prioritize what are the areas that need to be dredged. And then when you prioritize it, then of course the Ministry of Waterfront as well, who are also in charge of that, they ensure that they prioritize the main priority routes which are needed for that particular year. Because obviously it's a thing where but the good thing about it now is that through the Waterways Monitoring and Data Management Center, we can now begin to monitor water depths real time, which will enable us know this particular place is becoming shallow, this place is still deep, so that information we can feed off to the Ministry of Waterfront and Infrastructure Development, who can then know what to prioritize in terms of channelizing the waterways.
Okay, beyond you creating the enabling environment for the boat operators to thrive with their businesses, what are the other challenges that the agency is facing, and what are the ways through which you feel these boat operators can make your job easier?
Well, for them, it's all about adhering to safety. You know, a lot of the time you take for granted how you think that people who are in business should want to be as safe as possible, because really, it's also, sometimes you think about it that, look, if any incident happens, you lose as well. So for us, it's about them also continuing to adhere to basic safety measures, as simple as maintenance. And I think we have a maintenance culture issue generally in Nigeria, which I think we need to work on, but they know that they, I mean, for example, the authority has boats that are over 10 years. The only reason why those boats have lasted over 10 years is because the maintenance is at when due. Minimum 3 times a year, you must carry out that maintenance. If we don't carry it out, we will bear the full brunt of the issue. So for us, our message to them is to carry out a constant maintenance of their boats, as at when due, because a boat well taken care of can serve you a long time, lifetime over. I mean, our boats, you never know, they're even 10 years old just because of the maintenance that is constantly carried out on them. So for us, that's really our critical message. And of course, there will always be cross-cutting functions. We have cross-cutting functions, of course, across the federal agency as well, which obviously we've been managing, but we just want to ensure that we continue to manage that, to make sure that, you know, we can thoroughly, because it's all about development of Lagos, and we want to ensure that that continues to happen.
All right, so as a viable alternative to road traveling, is it true that the waterways is more environmentally friendly to travel than the road? And if that is, why?
Well, it is truly the case, and the reason why, I mean, let's even look at time saving first of all, and let's take just one of the routes. So
okay.
If we were to take Ikorodu to the island, if we were to go by road, I mean, I'm also part of the transport family, so I'm not trying to...
You're only trying to promote your own side.
But of course, we all promote and support each other.
Right.
It's always a joke amongst ourselves. But you know, you do about an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours coming to. But if you were to go by waterways, 25 minutes, no traffic, you get to your location. So you can wake up in the morning, I don't know, if you have kids, take your children to school, drop your car and still get to work on time before 8 o'clock, so that bus is not hounding you. Those are the benefits you get from it. You can plan. You can plan your timing with water transportation. And the whole idea is that...
Because there's no traffic.
There's no traffic, you know, and yeah, there's no traffic. There's nothing going to stop you. It's going to be straight to your destination. Traffic. Yeah. So for us, of course, that is definitely one. But most importantly as well is the carbon emissions, which happens more on the roads.
But they also use engine as well.
Absolutely. But the reason why, remember also that on the waterways as well, what we've been able to promote all this while is the fact that there's reduced greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay.
So it's the reduced carbon emission. I'm not saying that it's not there,
right.
but there's a reduced carbon emissions through the use of the boats. And I guess because we're real time, you know, beside the water, there's a lot of, you know, fresh air ventilation. You know, definitely can't compare it to when it's the road when you are stuck. And we also said there's no traffic. So traffic is a different ballgame when the greenhouse gas emissions are being released.
So, okay, Jibala, sorry, let me just, because you mentioned children. Yes. I know you have to go in a few minutes. You mentioned children. So when you're boarding a boat with a child, what are the procedures? And do they also have age-appropriate life jackets for children?
They must. It's a must that you must have age-appropriate life jackets, because if you don't, then it's also an offense if you don't have the life jackets for the children. And one of the things the state government did as well was to donate also children's life jackets across the 5 divisions in Lagos.
Okay.
And we do that annually. So we, apart from the fact that we expect the operators to provide such life jackets, the state government also provides these life jackets as well. But for a child, they're child-friendly life jackets, which children should have as well when they're going on the water. Because you don't want to wear an adult life jacket for a child. The child is going to sink in the middle by wearing that life jacket. And of course, if anything happens, the life jacket will fly off, God forbid. And then it might lead to the loss of the child, which we don't want to happen.
Okay, going by what you have highlighted to us this morning, it sounds so sweet to be on our waterways, you know, commuting. But for me, I have a phobia just like every other Lagosian. I was in Ilashe recently, and I had my hat in my mouth. So for those who are watching us right now, they still have that phobia. What would you say to convince them to embrace water transportation?
First of all, it's very safe. The most important thing you must have is your life jacket. If you have your life jacket, you are more than 99.999% safe with your life jacket on the waterways. And of course, one of the things we always say is, look, we're trying to promote the swimming culture. It started from even, to say charity starts at home. I have staff who are learning how to swim. I have staff who have learned how to swim. You know, we continue to promote the swimming culture in Lagos, and we've taken it even back to the school kids. Where we have the school kids program where we're promoting the swimming culture as well. And I believe that if you promote the swimming culture, because swimming boosts your confidence to be able to use the waterways. And when you know you can swim, you have this confidence of, oh, I'm going to go. And it doesn't mean you want to go and be swimming in the and just jump out and test yourself. But it gives you that confidence to be able to want to use the waterways as well. So generally, for those who are not using it, one, it's very safe. Make sure you use your life jackets. And please, let's just continue to ensure that we promote public transport and use public transport where available and where we can.
All right, on a final note this morning, is there room for more operators to key into the waterways?
Yeah, there's always...
What are the incentives?
There's always room for operators. There's always room for operators to come in. And that's what the state government continues to do. And that, which is why we said, even with the influx of these ferries, which the governor has just commissioned, the whole idea is going to be run by the private sector majorly. It doesn't mean that the public sector will not get part of them. They will get part of it, but obviously it's to promote, to continue to promote the private sector as well, because it is a sector that should be driven by the private sector, and the private sector, of course, would know a lot more even about maintenance as well.
All right, I guess this is where we'll have to leave this conversation today. Thank you so much, Oluwadamilola Emmanuel, GM LASWA, for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
Today, I think we owe you a visit. We'll probably need to just come tour the waterways.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I won't go with you.
Don't worry, we'll find time to be there and record, you know, a whole episode of the conversation on the waterways. Absolutely. Thank you again for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back after this short break.
A lady approached me claiming to be sick, where she asked me to help her take her to the hospital. And I was like, "Are you sure you are sick?" She said, "Yes." "Okay, there's an hospital close by, let's go. I know a doctor there herself, let's go now." And she said, "No, she has her doctor." I was like, "If you are sick, then call your doctor now." She said, "No, she don't have money to go and see the doctor. I should give her money," which I did. I gave her around 2,000 naira then. Only for me to come back to that same place. I met the lady drunk, seated by the roadside, drinking. And I was like, "I thought you said you were sick." I approached her. And she was like, "Did she know me?" I was like, "You don't know me just now." She said she don't know me. And that was how people came and met me there and was like, "You don't know her now and she don't know you, so just leave her." And that was how I left. So that incident, I was actually shocked.
Let the conversation continue.
You really need to have street sense to survive in Lagos.
Lagos will humble you. Lagos will humble you. I mean, you just need to be alert. Sometimes you know that they're actually playing you. So you just, it's either you want to just close your eyes and do certain things, or you want to, you know, just go the full hog. And days ago, I was at a filling station, and there were a few cars outside queuing to buy fuel. And you know these guys who, of course, beg for alms on their wheelchair. And he came and he knocked on my window. In fact, there I was already like, what if he gets up and pulls out a gun or something? So I was already scared, and he said, make I hold something. And I said, I didn't roll down.
Is that begging?
He wasn't begging.
He was
commanding me. Make I owe something now. I just did like this. Like, why you not go get? I'm like, okay, today I was begging the people. I beg, just move so that nothing will happen to me here. So again, sometimes certain things will happen to you. And so that's why sometimes I always ensure that I have change. But that day just said, this one, I will not even give you anything.
That is not even how to beg now.
Are you begging me or
you're commanding me?
No, I'm not. True, there's some people like that who would actually beg you for something and they are like begging you or they want you to really help them. But some, they see it as their rights and I'm like, Oga, even me, say, if I cannot beg somebody for money like that, why are you telling me, make I owe something? So he went, he came back the third time. I said, last today, I will not buy fuel.
Abi,
I will just pull out from this queue and then just go. So in Lagos, as much as you have street sense, be very careful because it is not everywhere that you are able to exhibit your street sense. Sometimes you just give to Kesari.
What is Kesari zone? I had a similar experience somewhere in Magodo as well. A man approached me and he said, okay, he needed some change. And I brought out 500 naira. And he replied to me in Yoruba. He said, Oshe, Owomikolele. A beggar. I gave him 500.
Did you put the money back in your pocket?
Immediately.
Immediately.
And some of them, you know, some are sincere and some are not sincere.
No, the majority of those that are not sincere they are large scale. And again, it debars you from helping people because some people will just use their own oversabi to just cause certain things and you just close your eyes and not want to help people. I don't know. Well, begging has become a norm. In Lagos,
and they make so much money from it. You know, it's a gang. It's a gang.
Let them stand up from that wheelchair, and you will see what is there.
Oh,
you will see what is there. All right, that will be the much we can bring to you on the conversation today. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, our guest had to leave quite early to attend a state meeting, and of course, we can't keep him here. You know, Lagos is working, and of course, it is to the benefit of all of us. So we'll leave you early today, but be rest assured that we'll be back here at 10 a.m. tomorrow for the first edition of the conversation. Be sure to join us then. Enjoy the rest of your day. I am Abimbola Bello.
All right, let's keep the conversations going on our various social media platforms. I am Ajibola Ojishola. We'll see you again tomorrow.